הדוברת הבאה היא סוזאן בנבנישתי, סמנכ"לית מרכז טאוב לחקר המדיניות החברתית בישראל. היא תדבר על ההשפעה של השהות בכפר אגהוזו שלום על האנשים שבאו במגע עם המפעל יוצא הדופן הזה. בבקשה.
שמי סוזי בנבנישתי. אני כאן דווקא לא בגלל התפקיד הנוכחי שלי, אבל דווקא כי בגלל השהייה שלי של שנה בהתנדבות בכפר ברואנדה, יחד עם בעלי עידו, שנמצא כאן גם כן. אני צריכה לבקש סליחה, אבל דווקא תודה. אני הכנתי את עצמי לדבר באנגלית, אז אני אדבר באנגלית. So I want to talk today a little bit about my experience at the village in Rwanda. And the impact of the village and kind of the special points of connection that exist within the village that allow the people who work there, the people who volunteer there, to have an impact on the children there. You know, very frequently they say, you know, in research that the presence of one caring adult can have a very large impact on enabling children who are undergoing trauma or who have undergone trauma to overcome that trauma and to be resilient. Agahozo Shalom is a village that is full of some of Rwanda's most vulnerable children, and it is also full of caring adults, from teachers and house mothers and counselors to volunteers who are there for a year, to security guards, to people who work in the kitchen, who are all there to surround and envelop the children in the village in love and an opportunity to come out of the difficulties that they've encountered. Before I talk about that, I'll just give a little bit of background about myself. So I went to the village in December 2009. I was living in New York, living and working in New York with my husband Ido, and he was a shaliach for Sochnut Yehudit, and we were on our way back to Israel, and we decided that we wanted to volunteer for a few months somewhere, and then Ido actually was in a conference in Seth's office. And Seth mentioned that the village was opening that day. He'd just come back from the opening of the village. And we decided to go listen to Anne at a lecture in Tikkun Leil Shavuot. And she spoke about the village. And Ido and I went up to her after the lecture and we said, we're coming. We want to volunteer. Seth was there. And a couple years later, we talked about that moment. And if I can say here, you know, I asked him, you know, what did you think? And he said, I was sure you were full of shit. There was no way you were going to go. And we went, and we were there. I was hired to be the piano teacher and an advisor to the director of the music center. And Ido was hired as an advisor to the school principal, and he also taught photography and was a basketball coach there. But perhaps most importantly, sorry, I wanted to show this picture of Anne also. We worked with families. Each volunteer was with a family of 16 children, together with a house mother and a counselor. That was probably the most important role that we had there. This is my family, the Madam C.J. Walker family. They chose that name for themselves. Madam C.J. Walker was the first self-made female millionaire in America and one of the first African-American millionaires. The family at the village is probably one of the most, if not the most important touch point for the kids. They have a counselor, a house mother, and for the first year also a volunteer who works with them. And this is a place for them to connect with each other and to connect with adults, to discuss, to process all the different things that they go through during their time at the village, in school, in their extracurricular activities, in thinking about their life in the place where they came from. This is my house mother, Mama Egidia. She came to the village at the age of 42. She'd never married or had children. She had taken care of all of her younger siblings. And in coming to the village, she got a family of 16 children that I can say, I think, that she truly raised as her own children and loved them as her own children. Hanging out at the house, spending time with the kids, in family time, when they're doing homework, this is one of the really important and special ways to get to know the kids. Just being with them, teaching them English, tutoring them, listening to them talk about what they're going through. And I think it's an important way to learn from the kids and to also be able to share with them something, whatever we had to share with them also. This is Pasi. She was one of the girls in my family. And you can see in the picture on the left, this is Pasi at the beginning of her time at the village, and the picture on the right is a more recent picture of her. Pasi is a born leader. She's smart, she's a hard worker, she always seeks to do the right thing. But when she first came to the village, she was, in words that Shimon would say, actually, she was closed. It took some time for her to open up, but once she did, she started to explore her passions. She came. She was living in a group home in Kigali, and she was in a very good boarding school. But she was really, from an educational perspective, she was doing very well, but she was really lacking in a feeling of love and in an opportunity to explore her passions. And with Pasi, she actually had very good English, which was not true of many of the kids who came to the village. And the village, school is taught in English, except for the course in Kinyarwanda. And the entire language of the village is English, which is by design. And also, primarily in Rwanda, the additional language aside from Kinyarwanda is switched to English. So we were able to communicate in that way. And she, in part of her striving to be better, she said to me one day, "Susie, I want you to talk to me like you talk to the other volunteers. Don't speak like you speak to the other students here. Don't talk slowly. Don't use small words. I want you to speak like you speak to everybody else." And today, Pasi is in a very special position. She's serving as an ambassador for the girls of Rwanda through an organization called Girl Hub. She's traveled around the world. Last week, when I got in touch with her by Facebook, she was on her way to London. She spoke at the African Union Summit at the UN, and she's also started her own initiative for 12 to 15-year-old Rwandan girls. And she's very into fashion design, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to see something from her in that field very soon. Another girl in my family that I wanted to talk about is Erica. She's shown here next to Angeline, who was our counselor. And Erica suffered really unthinkable trauma, not just as a child in losing her father, but later in her life at a point in time where she could really remember and losing her mother. And I connected with her recently to hear how she was doing. And she said to me, I'm quoting, "The village had a big impact on my behavior, attitude, knowledge. Sometimes I say that going in the village was the best blessing I got from God because the village healed my fear. The village helped me to realize the intelligent and powerful lady that I was." Erica recently competed in the competition for Miss Rwanda and was the first runner-up for Miss Rwanda. She received a government scholarship to attend a university in Rwanda, and she's now studying business administration. Shimon alluded to the fact that the goal of the village is not for people, is not to create these superstars. It's to help the children heal from their trauma, tikkun halev, tikkun olam, as a method to help kids heal themselves and move forward and think about their future. But one of the remarkable byproducts of this village is also the incredible success that these children are now experiencing, and I'll talk about that a bit more in a moment. One of the reasons that the opportunity to connect is so ingrained in the village is that the staff live among the kids. We all live together. And In this way, there were many kids who would come over to our house in the afternoon for help with their homework, for help with English, with ideas for businesses. They would come to me to look over their business plans and figure out how to develop their ideas. And I wanted to talk about one boy, the boy in red, towards the right side of the picture, Jean-Claude Muzergua. He would come over frequently. He was in Ido's family, and he wanted to work on his English, but he also had a lot of difficult issues to work through. He was the head of a child-headed household of himself and his brother. And, when we were speaking in English, he had to try to find words to explain what he was going through. And he was suffering from nightmares. He wasn't able to sleep at night. And he would tell me that he had a movie in his head that he couldn't turn off. The movie kept going and going. And what we discovered in consulting with other people in the village, with other staff in the village, was that he was really had guilt at leaving his younger brother behind at home, and was worried that his brother didn't have enough food to eat. And so in order to really move forward with his work, with his work on himself in the village, the informal education director of the village made a commitment to him that they would try to bring his brother to the village. And he also went with his counselor and his house mother to his brother. They brought him a large sack of flour and a large bunch of bananas, and to ensure that he had enough food so he wouldn't have to worry about eating and he could focus on his studies. And that enabled Claude to really focus on himself in the village. And so, it's important to note this because not all the kids feel comfortable talking with everybody who's around them. That's the benefit of having so many people there to support the children. Some of them only want to speak to their Rwandan counselors and house mothers and don't want to connect to somebody from the outside, but many of them really do. It gives them a different perspective. They're willing to talk about different things with different people. And so the communication amongst the staff is also very important so that we can share with each other and take care of the needs of the kids. I think that you can really learn a lot by seeing the world through the eyes of these students, because they come from such difficult circumstances and they appreciate everything that you give to them. And that brings me to another part of another connection point, which is the world of music and art in the village. And as I said, one of my responsibilities was to teach piano. I'm not a particularly good pianist. I'm a singer, actually. But I studied piano for many years, and so I shared whatever knowledge I had with these kids. And it's remarkable the way that they eat up whatever you have to offer them. This boy here is Innocent Zaisenga, and he's one of the kids that I used to internally in my head get very annoyed at, because he would come every Saturday morning at 6 a.m. I would hear a tap, tap, tap on the door. And we would ignore it, and then I'd hear another tap, 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 and I'd go to the door, and he said, "I want the keys to the piano room." And we'd give him the keys to the piano room, and he, every possible moment he wanted to play the piano. He was relentless about getting that education. Within 10 days at the village, he wrote a song for Ido and me, who we were celebrating our first anniversary there, and he wrote a happy anniversary song for us. And he continued. He created his own band. Called the Braves. He performed very frequently, and I was really excited and floored to find out that he's now attending McGill University to study music and art. His past story is just as tragic, if not more than many others, but he kind of utilized everything the village had to offer them. And I can't emphasize enough how much the kids really have many things open to them, but they have to be the ones to go ahead and take advantage of them, and they do, and it's incredibly, incredibly impressive. The opportunity to create music and art is on the side of the Tikkun Olam side of the Tikkun Alev side of the philosophy of the village, giving the kids the opportunity to explore their own talents, and through doing something finding something that they love to do, feeling good about themselves and recognizing what their possibilities are, feeling a sense of self-worth. But something else that the other side is Tikkun Olam, not only Tikkun Olam, but also taking care and taking responsibility for their own world. And here, this is a picture of the kids participating in Umuganda, which is basically on a weekly basis taking care of their village. And here, this is Ido's family working on the farm. And what I wanted to point out here is that, again, this activity is another point in time for the caring adults, for the counselors, for the volunteers to connect with the kids. In this picture, you can see there's Ido and the guy wearing all black with a black hat, that's Prosper, the counselor. They're working side by side with the kids. And, you know, sometimes they sing songs and talk and joke, and sometimes they have serious and deep conversations. And really what I discovered in the village is that you never really know at what moment you're going to have an opportunity to learn something really deep and personal from one of the kids, or to share with them something that's going to have an impact on their lives. And that's why it's so important to be engaged consistently with them. You know, the students are not the only ones who are profoundly affected by their experience in the village. The counselors also, you see incredible transitions in the lives of the counselors and the house mothers. But I do, you know, I know I'm short on time, so I just want to close with two things. You know, you can see statistics and things on the website. There are some very impressive things that are happening now. The students who have passed the national exams compared to the 88% average nationally. 85 students that are currently enrolled in local universities in Rwanda and other countries in East Africa. Student who is studying at university, received a full scholarship to go to University of Pennsylvania. You saw his picture before. 19 students at the Kila Institute for Professional Training. But you know, that's you can see those statistics on the website. What I want to close with is to talk about, you know, the impact that the village had on me in enabling me to see the world through the eyes of somebody whose experience was so different from my own experience, to live without the many amenities that we're used to having in life, and to take a step back and create change from the background, to be an advisor, to not be at the front, to allow other people, to allow the local staff to really own the work and own the experience. And it taught me also about the incredible capacity that we as humans have to love people that we may have never met before. You know, when I got to the village, I met a few weeks after I got there my family of 16 girls, and immediately I loved them, and I didn't know that it was possible. And when I left the village, I told the girls that it's really amazing that I think you've prepared me now to be a mother, because I understand how it's possible to love more than one child. And now I have 2 children, and I see that it really is possible. I just want to close with a poem from Innocent Hundie, who I think that's another poem. He's kind of the poet laureate of the village. What is the Agahozo Shalom Youth Village? And Innocent was in Ido's family. The village is a doctor that collects all our hearts that are cruelly broken for further repairing. The village is a mirror that we discover who we deserve to be. The village is a garden where we plant our ideas and visions to make a change. And from that change, we realize that life is all about knowing the power you have and being able to use that power to become the best person you can ever be. The village is a place where you learn, like babies, how to pronounce mom and dad. Not because it sounds childish, but because we never had that chance to say those powerful words. The village is a shining star that guides us through darkness. The village is like a microphone that you take to express your thoughts and feelings. Thank you. Toda rabah.